Day 2 of my London holiday vlog, in which I buy some records, visit some historical rock and roll locations, get told off by some security guards, and of course go and see the Divine Comedy. Ahoy everybody, and welcome to day 2 of my London video blogs. Yesterday I went record shopping, I saw some rock and roll historical locations, and of course I went to my gig, so that's what I will be talking about today. So after recording and editing yesterday's video, I headed into central London as promised. Went up on the nearest tube station to here is Clapham Common. Well, there is one slightly nearer, but it's overground. Wandsworth Road, and therefore has fewer connections, so it's easier to walk an extra few minutes and go to the Clapham Common one, which is on the Northern Line, headed up. So I was heading for Berwick Street. So anywhere sort of, of the main stations in central London would have done. Decided to head for Tottenham Court Road. Mainly because I wanted to see what it had been like, because last time I was here it was still being renovated. Couple of options for getting up there. Basically 2 places I could change and then, get onto another branch of the Northern Line, and this is what I chose to do. I headed up to Moorgate, and that was because I wanted to try the new Elizabeth line. So got off at Moorgate, followed the signs, entered this great big long space age tunnel, which you can see footage of here. Walked around that and then got slightly confused, but only slightly, because it had actually taken me all the way around to Liverpool Street Station. So suddenly all the signs were saying Liverpool Street Station rather than Moorgate, which threw me somewhat. But it was very flash, very posh. This is footage of the platform, that's the word I was looking for. And the train arriving.
Approaching platform B, this is your 7-line service to Wellington.
And it's quite busy, so you can't sort of get the full splendour of the actual carriages themselves, but for those of you who are interested, here's brief footage of the carriage. So got on back to Tottenham Court Road, made my way out. Again, what I found most impressive with the Elizabeth line sections is the space. Whereas most of the tube lines are pretty cramped, and where you walk you're segregated by barriers and things like that. It's just huge, great, futuristic spaces. And then to get on to the escalator to get out to ground level, it's possibly the biggest one I've seen. It was massive and very steep. If you don't like escalators, you would hate it. As you're going up, you're sort of like that, looking up towards the ceiling almost. It's so steep. I wish I'd thought to get my phone out whilst approaching it so that I could film going up, but I didn't. I might go there again before the end of the week just to get footage of that. Headed out into Tottenham Court Road, impressed by the new station. Wandered down Charing Cross Road, popped in Foyles, had a little scoot round there. Nothing particularly that I wanted, no signed books that yelled by me. And I wasn't in the mood to flick through it. Normally they have in their DVDs and Blu-rays. I think we got Blu-rays. I often find a couple of more obscure titles there that I've sort of fancied for ages and end up picking them up, but I wasn't in the mood to do that. So I had a quick scan, but each little section was about 5 or 6 deep with multiple titles, and it would have taken hours to go through. So I just sort of scanned the front of each section and didn't spot anything that I couldn't live without. So I left there empty-handed, and from there headed straight round. Didn't stop anywhere else, did I? No. To Berwick Street, which I'm sure most of you know, but it's this street that is on the cover of Oasis' What's the Story Morning Glory. But I approached it from the wrong end to sort of take a photo that would show that. But walked up, and there's 2 record shops there that have been there for years and are well established and quite well known. And the first one I went in was Reckless Records. This is a little footage of me approaching it.
Yeah, some momentum. Yeah, I was just going to put my head down.
Went in, and I didn't take any footage inside. Not being familiar with the place, I didn't know how appreciated that would be, and I wanted to concentrate on browsing. But as you go in, on the right hand side is the counter. It's quite unusual in that it's a long counter of about 4 or 5 paying positions, but it's almost like a big box with windows, almost like, you know, a post office counter or you know, a bank counter in the old days. And you know, it had sections all along and little slots you could feed the records through. It wasn't closed in enough to be, although it was completely closed in, it wasn't sort of dauntingly so, but it was quite unusual. Whether that was sort of a COVID addition or whether it's always been like that, I don't know, obviously. But there was a guy stood there, so I said hello as I went in. It's always, you know, with record shops, you're all like-minded individuals, and so I always try and speak if I see members of staff or owners. You know, it's normally appreciated. So I said hello, quickly got my bearings. Immediately as you go in was new releases. Then there was new arrivals in pop and rock, A to Z, little subsections. Then the bulk of it was pop and rock A to Z with certain, you know, artist sections, Beatles section, Bowie section, etc. Then it went on to different subgenres or other genres. You know, so there was reggae section, house section, funk and soul section, comedy section. I couldn't find a soundtrack section, which is annoying because I wanted to see if I had any Bond. But yeah, I didn't see a soundtrack section. Load of 7-inch singles again, all subcategorised with, you know, different certain groups covered, but mainly there's a few genres as well, separate. There was an indie section, I think, I seem to recall. Jazz section. Then by now you're sort of coming back on yourself, and there's a little alcove with all the CDs, which I didn't look through. Then a few more records, dancey type ones, and then the counter. Up on the I was going to say ceiling, wall, there's lots of the more premium titles. What they seemed to do, or they did, is that the more premium titles, rather than put in the racks, they had a photocopy of the cover with description of what it was and the price and everything, album sized in there, and you took that up and they found the valuable record for you. Some interesting stuff on the walls. There was an original 1984 Purple Vinyl, Purple Rain album for £75, which I was tempted by, but decided not to in the end. I'm not, although I like to have everything I can on Prince vinyl with the albums, I'm not a completist, as in getting every variant of every release. I've picked up, picture discs and new releases, I will get every version of if possible. But as for going back and getting, it's a minefield when you consider all the different countries and different. There's people who collect things that are pressed at different plants or that have got slightly different cutouts on the sleeves on the singles and things like that, which I have some of those variants, particularly on the singles, but that's more luck than judgment, if you see what I mean. I don't deliberately go out and think, oh, that's got curved edges on the cutout of the sleeve, whereas that's got straight edges, or that hasn't got any cutout at all. Anyway, so I left that behind. There's some interesting darkness items. Somebody either in or associated with the band must have sold them some stuff at some time, because there was very limited stuff. There was a 7-inch single from, pre-Fame. I think it might even have been their first ever single. A test pressing of which there was only ever 5 copies. They had that. They had a test pressing of the debut album, the original recording before they got signed to a major. On their original record label, they demoed the album, or they made the album, but then got signed. So they didn't re-record it. I think it was just remastered, if you like. But they had a test pressing, one of only 10 of that original version of the album, and very rare things like that. Another signed test pressing of one of the other albums, so on and so forth. So yeah, there's definitely somebody connected with the band or in the band must have offloaded that stuff. But they were going for, I think the single was £100, the Permission to Land was £200 and stuff like that, and no. But yeah, nice stuff to have. But yeah, flicked through and found a few things. What they had, apart from that very first section of new releases, the new and the pre-loved were just sort of mixed together, in both shops actually that I went to, which I quite liked. It was clear what was new and what was pre-loved. That wasn't an issue. So it was quite nice knowing that you were sort of seeing everything available for that artist without having to go to multiple places in the shop. I quite liked that. But yes, picked up a few titles. Although I had bags with me, he said, "Do you want a bag?" I said, "Is it branded?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, yes, I will, please." So for an extra 10p, I got a branded bag. And then how many did I pick up? 1, 2, 3, 6 titles. 70 something pounds, I think it was. But first up for my Kinks collection. So this was £16. US 70s with the inner. Very good plus. So we put all the details on there. So Kinks, very good plus, £16. SID, which I presume is School Boys in Disguise. What's that say? Yeah, US 70s with inner. So it's a bit of ring wear, typical of American albums, I find anyway. Original inner, it's a little bit, but the record isn't going to stay in there anyway. And on RCA, I did trust there. Yeah, I can't see any marks on that at all. In another light I may do, but not on that. getting? For my John Martin collection. So for £15, this is good condition. It's pink rim. It's Island, so that's the label. Text on sleeve. John Martin, spelled wrong. On there. So yes, it has got the original owners, something J. Donnard, possibly. April 29th, 1975, they bought that. So sleeve, bit of wear on it. Again, bit of ring wear, but nothing too bad. That's annoying. Wish I hadn't done that. Yeah, not the best light to be doing this in my hotel room. I can see some light marking. There's a bit of dirt on the running groove, whatever you call that bit. Or a mark of some sort anyway. But that's not an issue. But yeah, Pink Rim Island. Nice to have another earlier John Martin, because most of what I found out and about so far has been 80s and onwards. Do get in. And for my Cat Stevens collection, New Masters, one of his 2 early Devon albums when he was more poppy. So what's it say about it? This is £8, very good plus. Cat Stevens, New Masters, that's all it says about that. Originally, it's gone through the music and video exchange. I don't think is there anymore. I'll have to Google that, because if it is, it might be worth paying a visit. Oh, that's interesting. It's obviously original, but there's a cutout there stuck on. So there must have been text of some sort, I would guess, there that they've had to cover. I'll see if I can find out about that. Yeah, bit of dust, but it seems to be pretty much mark free. I think I have all the material on this on a compilation that I picked up before, but nice to have the actual album. Then in the comedy section, there was a Goodies album that I don't have. The Goodies sing songs from the Goodies. Very good plus, £6. Obviously not worthy of a sleeve, according to them. So what's this got on it? Stuff at Gibbon, Goodies theme, Winter Sportsman. So these are properly songs that were in the TV show rather than, you know, the hits that were special recordings. Yeah, nice label, Decca label. A couple of fingerprinty type marks, but can't see any scratches or anything. This is going to be a long video. Then in the Funk and Soul section, I found this. So for £7 from 1985, F/S LP. Not sure quite what that means. Very good plus. So this is Rosie Gaines's album Caring, I think that says. Yes. Rosie was in Prince's band from 1990 to 1992. Still in the shrink, but open. So this predates, this is, as I say, it's 1985, so this predates her work with Prince. She was the co-vocalist on Diamonds and Pearls and on Prince's version of Nothing Compares to You. That's probably what she's best known for with him. After she left, she did have a hit over here with the song Closer Than Close? Yeah, Closer Than Close, which was a big dance hit. This is on Epic. Yeah, nice and clean. So yeah, picked that up from a Prince connection, not collection. And then also related is Graham Central Station's album Release Yourself. 1974 US, again F/S, I don't know what that means. LP, VG Plus, £20. Annoyingly, somebody only paid 50p for it at one point. But this is one of the few Warner's era GCS albums that I don't own. I've got most of the others on CD. So, I mean, if they had one of the albums that I own on CD, I would have picked it up anyway, but for it to be this one, it's very good. That's not the original, you know, clearly. Yeah, that looks fine. But the track Release Yourself itself is one of my favourite GCS tracks. Well, it's one of my favourite songs, full stop, actually. It's also got I Believe in You, a cover of Feel the Need, and a couple of other tracks that read vaguely familiar. So yeah, that was Reckless. So it was just over 70 quid, which was well within my budget. That really was just about everything there that I really wanted. There wasn't anything that as I say, apart from a Prince one. If a Prince one was cheaper, if it was sort of 40 quid or so, then I'd have snapped it up. But, you know, budgetary wise, didn't really want to spend 75. It's going to be an expensive few days here and then at home as well. And there's loads of new releases coming out anyway. So I checked the forecast before I left, and there was no indication that there was going to be any rain. Walked out of Reckless Records, and it had clearly been raining. And there were still a few drops in the air, but it wasn't a huge issue because Sister Ray Records was diagonally opposite. So here's footage of me approaching it. I can't remember if you can see the rain in it or not. But yes, went in Sister Ray, and upstairs is all the CDs, and there's a big sign saying vinyl downstairs, and there's a big counter sort of at the far end, and then sort of in front of that is steps down. So I went down, and records arranged around the outside of a room, apart from singles which are in the middle. And it started with soundtracks, and there was something before that. Oh, I think it was new releases before that, which were all, new vinyl. Then there's a couple of racks of discount. There's $4.99 on 3 for 12, I think it was. No, 3 for 10, I think it might have been. And then $1.99 on 3 for a fiver. Little bins, but there's nothing I wanted in either of those. $4.99 stuff, there's some decent stuff that would be worth picking up if it was other stuff you didn't have or to your taste. Then there was some world music and reggae, and then I think there was sort of housey dancey stuff, quite a bit of that. It's obviously an area they specialise in. Then you got to the A to Z. By now you're around to the other wall, and you want the rock A to Z, rock and pop A to Z. Again, lots of subsections for different artists. There's sort of a little A's section, and then depending on obviously on the letter, lots of ABBA, AC/DC, blah 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 blah. You know, lots of little subcategories particular to artists, which was nice. Made finding stuff easier. Meant you could skip whole sections quite easily if they weren't people you were interested in. On the wall again, some of the rarer stuff. The only one that sort of sticks in my mind is they had an original pressing of Blur's Parklife, which was £100. But then all that stuff, again, new and pre-loved were mixed together, as I mentioned. Anything sort of any value, basically anything new or anything rare, they had, it was just photocopies of this product in there. And they kept the records upstairs behind the till. But yeah, worked my way around there. Yeah, rock and pop A to Z. Then they had a 50s and 60s, I think it was, section. What was there? Can't remember what the next sort of little subsection was. Then soul and funk, and then I think it was more dancey type bits. But had a scoot round again. But 2 titles again for 10p. Got a branded bag. So the first one up is a new record. In fact, I haven't even unsealed it. So it is the 2017 reissue of Elastica's self-titled debut. I knew it had been reissued. I think it was just a record store day release. Although there's no indication on here of that, so it might be that it then had a proper reissue, but I've never seen it anywhere. And it was only $19.99, so snapped that up. Includes bonus flexi disc and 12-page book. So let's have a look. So the flexi disc is In the City. The Elastic Catalogue. 12-page book. So this is a fanzine. Replica. Justine. Donna. Oh, I missed Donna. How could I miss Donna? There we go. And then in the sleeve, yeah, really happy to have that. I have been picking up the 12-inch singles from around this time, so I do have most of these tracks on vinyl, but I wanted the album. And then plugged a hole in my Joni Mitchell collection. So this is, I sort of had to double check this. I knew I didn't have Song to a Seagull on vinyl because I checked a couple of days ago which ones I needed on vinyl. And it is, you can see it, Song to a Seagull. It's weird, it's one of those things that you can read easier the smaller it is. If you look at it close up, it's not that legible. But on the camera, I can read it quite clearly. But it's not called Song to a Seagull on the spine. It's just called Joni Mitchell. And I sort of had to get it up on my phone and check that this was Song to a Seagull. Which is silly, because it clearly is. So this was pretty loved. This was $19.99. But he did... This was one where he... the Elastica one he had to get for me, and this he did as well. But he, without prompting, got me to check it before I agreed to buy it. There's some light marking on it, but nothing that's going to affect play. But yeah, again, you know, it really was all I wanted in there. There wasn't huge amounts of stuff. But I thought, oh, I might buy that. Quite a few Prince titles, but nothing that I didn't already have. So left Sister Ray, and I could see that it rained even more, but it had stopped. But then there was a couple more little bits of drizzle as I was walking to my next venue, which was, I wanted a sort of a general look around, you know, Soho area, West End. But I'd been reminded a couple of days ago in a comment on a previous video, and sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head who said it, but I'll pop it on the screen, that Third Man Records was now there. So googled where that was and how to get there, and wandered round to Third Man Records. Here's a little video of the entrance. I wasn't sort of anticipating buying anything because the, you know, I'm not a particularly, I admire Jack White, but I'm not particularly a fan of his work. I don't dislike it at all, but he's not somebody who I buy, basically, yet. Maybe in the future I will. And I was aware that, you know, a lot of the catalogue of Third Man Records was stuff that I don't know or does nothing much for me. So I wasn't anticipating buying anything there, and sure enough I didn't. But it was a nice little shop. It was a lot smaller than I was anticipating. As you go in, it's all yellow. There's sort of a table in front of you that had some record players that you could buy and various other bits and bobs. Then either side there are little sections with the records in. You know, because I haven't got the hugest catalogue anyway, it was big chunks of the same title. Albums at the back, singles at the front. I flicked through all of them. The only one I might have picked up, apart from if I'd wanted to start delving into the White Stripes, which crossed my mind, but I didn't. The only one I might have picked up was a Lead Belly compilation, but I've got that on CD. I did, out of curiosity, because all the prices were on the back of the records as well, so it would have meant, you know, getting them out and looking to see how much they were. But there was a special edition of the Hateful Eight. Yeah, the Hateful Eight soundtrack, the Tarantino film, which I looked at out of curiosity, and it looked like it was a double disc, and it was a big, thick, heavy package. It was only £22, which I thought was good pricing. But of course, they got a lot fewer overheads. You know, they can do them cheaper because they've made the records. They had some T-shirts, quite a lot of, you know, memorabilia, if you like, for Third Man Records. And there was people being served when I went in, and they seemed very helpful staff and very friendly, which was nice. But I left empty-handed, as I was anticipating. But it was nice to have been in there. You know, there's the only thing they've produced so far that I would definitely 100% buy if I had the money at the time was the Sign of the Times, Prince Sign of the Times 7-inch single box set. But I couldn't afford it at the time it came out, and it sold out very quickly. So I wasn't really expecting it to be in there. But from there, since I was in that sort of area, I thought I'd do a couple of the rock and roll landmarks. So the first one, once I found it, I did was Headham Road. Is that the right name? I think it is. The Ziggy Stardust section. So there's, in Headham Road, it's sort of a crescent. That's the word I was looking for. So you go down one section, then you turn left, and then there's a bit more of it. It's a crescent. Here's footage of me entering one section of Headland Road, and you can see him a distance for Phone Box that's on the back cover of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. So I filmed a little bit approaching, but cut it off before I got there because there was builders and workmen about, so I didn't really want to film as I was going past them. And you can see in that footage there was a couple of security guards, so didn't think anything of that. Walked up to the phone box. I believe it is not the original Phone Box anymore, but this is the back cover of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars, where he's emerging from the phone box that was in that location. And so I've, it's covered in graffiti and everything, so I thought, I'll take some footage, people will be interested in this. And then, as you will see on the footage, those two security guards came back. Yeah. So it's the David Bowie phone box. It's the David Bowie phone box. I was just taking a little video of it.
Oh, right. You got someone, like, just taking a picture of the box, or?
Yeah, David Bowie had a picture of it on one of his album covers. That's why it's got all the graffiti and everything on it. Yes.
Like, you got someone in there.
I mean, whether it was their first day there or something, but they clearly had no idea what I was talking about, which was quite funny. And couldn't gather why I was filming this video box, this phone box, and also they seemed to think there was somebody in the box, but there, as you saw, it was just cardboard in there. Very strange. But yeah, finished that, walked around the corner, and that's where the front cover was shot, and there's a little plaque there to commemorate that. So this is the front cover. And this is my little bit of footage of it. So having left there, nothing there takes time, but it's nice to see these places, to walk in those footsteps. I was very close to Savile Row, so I headed round to have a look at number 3 Savile Row, which of course is most famous for being the Beatles' Apple building in the late 60s, and where the famous rooftop gig was held. That's featured in Get Back. So yeah, took a bit of footage there. So by now it was lunchtime and things were getting busy, so had another little walk around, basically just sort of headed where my legs took me. Walked past a M&S food hall, so popped in and grabbed myself a sandwich and a couple of drinks, and I was sort of opposite Green Park there, so I went and sat in Green Park down by Buckingham Palace and had a think about what I was going to do next. Decided, since I was doing that sort of thing, I didn't want to, I didn't sort of have long enough left that I could do anything really major. I mean, still had, plenty of time, but I couldn't sort of go and do, and I couldn't travel to the outskirts of London to do record shopping or anything like that, and I was getting a bit fed up with lugging the records about. But I thought, since I'm doing that sort of thing, I'll go and do Abbey Road. So I wandered up to Trafalgar Square first, and then from there, I went through to Leicester Square where I was going to sit for a bit and people watch for a bit, but basically Leicester Square is closed. They're doing, they've been doing, I was going to say roadworks, they've been doing works there for years, literally. But when we were there a year ago, when we went to the West End to see Windsor's Endgame, Leicester Square itself was open, you could sit in it and what have you, but it was all closed off. There was a queue to get in. I was tempted to go in the Lego shop because there's a Aston Martin that I'm tempted to buy and I wanted to see it. Not the big expensive version, they've done a smaller, cheaper version. A Bond specific one, Aston Martin. But there was a queue to get in the Lego shop, which I will never understand, but there you go. I have friends who very much understand that. So, just carried on wandering down, got to Piccadilly Circus and jumped on the tube there, headed up to St John's Wood. So it was up to Baker Street, change at Baker Street, and up to St John's Wood, which is the nearest tube for Abbey Road. Wandered up, found Abbey Road. Thing that sort of got me most was that the zebra crossing is sort of a lot nearer the start of the road than I thought it was. I thought it was a bit further in, but it's literally you turn the corner and there is the crossing. Threw me a little bit. There was people there doing, they're posing. So I just stayed on the other side of the road to the studios for a bit and wandered down until I could find a building with an Abbey Road sign on it, which I did. Here it is. And that was on the same side of the road as the studios, so headed down, popped in the studio shop. There was a t-shirt I was tempted by, but when I looked at my size, it didn't look as if it was going to be particularly friendly, if you like. And that was a bigger size they did, so I decided against that. A couple of other things I was tempted by, but not enough to actually get, so left there empty-handed. Walked past the studios, nobody famous going in or out. Walked down to the crossing. It is covered by a webcam, and I've seen mentioned that they keep the footage for 24 hours and you can go back and find yourself, but I can't work out how to do it. It might be me being stupid, it might be because I'm doing it on my phone, I don't know. But I walked across the crossing. I didn't pose or do the walk or anything like that. I literally just used it as a zebra crossing, but figured if I could find at about 2:15, if I could find myself on the webcam, I could snapshot it. But yeah, couldn't work that out, and by the time any of you see this, it will probably be too late to tell me how to do it anyway, which is a bit of a shame, but at least I've done it. Headed back to the tube, went back to Baker Street. This time I left Baker Street. There was people there checking this, guy, and he had his official stuff and a woman with him, and there was a transport police bloke there as well. And they were doing spot checks on people's tickets, and I thought, I haven't got a ticket, I used my card, but I just used my common sense and just brought up my card on my phone, and he had a device that zapped it, and he said, yeah, that's fine, and on your way. I'm 99% sure it was genuine, and I don't appear to have had loads of money taken from my account. But yeah, first time I've ever come across that in this day of not having physical tickets. But went out and headed up to 221B End, although that's not why I was there. I did the Sherlock Holmes Museum about 20 years ago and haven't sort of felt the need to revisit because I can't see how much else they've added to it unless they've got some Sherlock stuff. But not overly bothered about going again. But there's two shops there that I was interested in, or there was. So there's the Beatles shop, and then they had another shop called It's Only Rock and Roll But I Like It, I think it was called, which sort of covered other acts. That shop is now closed. It was still, the fascia and everything was still there, but it's long closed. So I just went in the Beatles shop and had a look around there. Again, I'd been there before. It changed somewhat in that they've got a lot less music in there. They used to have racks and racks of albums, you know, pre-loved and new. But now there's a big sign saying we don't buy record collections, and they've just got a little rack there with maybe that many albums and a few more singles, and that's about it. They got all the CDs, but for some reason they've stopped doing vinyl. But really, they're just sort of clearing the last of their stock. But as you can tell by the fact I just reached for something, I did buy something. I just liked these, basically. They had a load of polo shirts, which I don't really buy usually. But yeah, I picked up this. Checked the sizing and it looked alright, and I've tried it on and it is a bit tight, but not terribly so, and it's a nice length. That's what I don't like much, is when they're too short and my belly hangs at the bottom, basically. But no, this is nice and long. But yeah, nice polo shirt with the Beatles drum logo on. They had this colour. They also had it in black with white trim, which I liked as well, but I haven't got anything this colour, so I thought, oh yeah, I'll go for that. Just a regular polo shirt otherwise. They also had them in this colour and in yellow, with yellow submarine logos on. But that was £25, which is a decent price. And I had a little chat about Prince with the girl on the desk there, about Prince and ping pong. It's just a normal conversation. And by then I'd sort of had enough of traipsing round. It was coming up for 3 o'clock. So I jumped on the tube, Baker Street, and headed back here to a hotel to chill for a couple of hours before going out. I wasn't overly hungry. The sandwich had sort of done its job, so I didn't fancy finding a restaurant or anything like that. So as I was walking back from the tube, I popped in the Sainsbury's local en route and picked up a salad, which was very nice. Just a lettuce leaves with little plum tomatoes, a sachet of Italian hard cheese, fake parmesan basically, and a balsamic dressing. Ate it with a teaspoon in here. It's very nice. And yeah, picked up a couple of other things as well whilst I was at it. But came back here, relaxed for a bit, and then headed to the gig. So this time, I did buy myself a water, one of those can of waters, which is £2.50 I think. I did buy the t-shirt as discussed on the last video. Because everything was already set up now, they'd opened the merch stall at 6 o'clock and I could just walk straight up to it more or less. There was a little bit of a queue, but because I was paying cash, I could sort of jump the queue and go to the second server. And yes, so I looked at the sizes and they looked alright, and I've tried this on, and again it's a little bit tight, but it's perfectly acceptable. So that's the front, and then the reason particularly I wanted it was for the tour dates on the back. £20. Yeah, went in, so I was sat H69, which was opposite side to the stage than I was the night before. And so there's a flat section, which is rows B to F, and then sort of in a almost trapezium but without the bottom section around it, you've got G, H, and so on and so forth. So it's second row of the slopey bits of the stalls, and I was sort of pretty much in the middle of the left hand section, and this is my view. And it was absolutely fine. It meant I could see the musicians I couldn't really see the night before. Lovely view of Neil. The only sort of bits I couldn't see properly were the brass and the strings. But yes, it was, again, it started slightly after 7:30, but on came the band and then Neil to lead us through Casanova, the third album, the big hit breakthrough album featuring Something for the Weekend, Becoming More Like Alfie, Frog Princess, where the singles also features Songs of Love, which is better known as the theme for Father Ted. The first Divine Comedy album I bought, first Divine Comedy album lots of people bought. It was a sellout. It sold out very quickly. It's the reason I was sat so far back, as opposed to all the other night. Well, I'm Road G on Saturday, which surprised me that one sold quite so well. But it is Saturday night, I suppose. Is the reasoning there. But yeah, as before, you know, did some of the same stage banter, the lack of showmanship, and what he, at the end of side one, he mimed flipping the record over, which he'd done last night as well, or previous night before as well. It was strange because Something for the Weekend and Becoming More Like Alfie are the first two tracks of the album. Now, normally they're saved for later in the set. Something for the Weekend is often an encore. So to have them, you know, done and out of the way first thing was very peculiar. But, you know, as he said after those two, yeah, like those are two that you've heard hundreds of times before. Now for the weird, interesting stuff. And it's Middle Class Heroes. And again, you know, it's an album. It's the album that got me into Divine Comedy. It is a brilliant, brilliant album, and there was tracks that I was, you know, really looking forward to hearing live, and they didn't disappoint. Charge was just fantastic. Through a Long and Sleepless Night, I have heard him do live before, actually. But again, we're getting it all with the strings and the horns, which we don't normally get. I have seen him with strings. They did have strings on the tour for Victory for the Comic Muse, I think it was. So I have seen him with strings before. But not, you know, only once. So to have them, you know, is an added bonus, if you like. And just to hear these songs sort of done properly. And The Dogs and the Horses was beautiful. Theme from Casanova was fun, you know, we all joined in with that, and yeah, it was just fantastic, really. He promised, when he was sort of introducing the evening, that he, you know, short album about love, which was the second half of the gig. The clue's in the name. It is a short album, it is a mini album, it's only 7 tracks. Cold hot chocolate. So he promised that we'd get some extra tracks. They'd rehearsed some tracks that weren't on albums, which led to a big, ooh, he said, don't get too excited, it's not B-sides or anything like that. So straight away my mind sort of went to what they could be, and we'll come to that in a second. But they came back on, did short album about love, which again, absolutely adore. I can't remember if it was second or third on my ranking, but it was right up there. You know, it's an album that was made with an orchestra, and so that, you know, the added strings and brass that were there that last night meant that those songs could be done properly. And as he said, you know, it may not be some of his best material, which I would disagree with to an extent, but anyway, but they were effing lovely songs to sing. And I think that's one of the reasons I love that album, is because it's right in my range, a lot of it, and I can belt along to it as well. But yeah, so they played Short Album, which was just wonderful to hear. And went off stage briefly and then came back. So when he said that about tracks, he just said, well, the tracks aren't on albums. So I figured, right. By that he means the normal albums that aren't being played. The fact that he's told us it's not going to be B-sides also rules out it being... I did wonder if he'd do Fanfare for the Comic Muse, the mini album, but no, which is fair enough. Wasn't really expecting him to. So I thought, right, he's definitely going to do Gin Soaked Boy, which is a bonus track on the first, or one of two bonus tracks on the first A Secret History, the best of. Because he did that on the last tour for the first time properly ever. So they'd obviously been rehearsing it, so I thought, right, they're definitely going to do Gin Soaked Boy. It's possible, then the other possibilities were Too Young to Die, which was the other bonus track on there, but he's pretty much disowned that song, and rightly so. Musically, it's a nice song, but the subject of it, he's sort of slagging off. It was just before he went into the indie type era and left behind the orchestral pop. And he sort of slags off what he'd been doing a bit in it. It's never sat well with me and many fans. So that was a possibility. There was the new track, whose name I can never remember, that was on the new best of, Charmed Life. Name on the screen. And the only other possibility was I've Been to a Marvellous Party. And I prayed it was I've Been to a Marvellous Party. So that is a Noel Coward song that he did for the Red Hot and Blue compilation that Neil Tennant put together. And the way he did it, it was a single and it charted in the 20s, I think it was. But he started the song very Noel Coward, I've been to a Marvellous Party with Nana and Nunu and Nell. It was in the fresh air and we went as we were and we stayed as we were, which was hell. But then for the chorus, he wanted to bring it up to date as if it was party music of that time, of the current time. So it's sort of got a ravey chorus. So he came on and it was just him, Andrew Skeet, the pianist and arranger of all the music for the nights, basically, and the drummer, Tim Wheeler. So I thought, I think I know what we're getting. And he said, right, this first one, we haven't done live, or haven't even attempted to do live for 23 years, I think he said, because every time we tried it, it went wrong. And I thought, yeah, we're definitely getting it. And sure enough, we got Marvellous Party, which was amazing. The lights went mad during the dancey bits. Pretty much all worked. Yeah, really, that was a thrill, seeing that done. Then the band came on, and sure enough, we got Gin Soaked Boy, which went really well. Everybody was up and dancing for that. And then he said, right, this next song is, let's see if you remember it. It's a song that's very special to me. And I thought, no, he's not, is he? And he sat us down, and the band and the orchestra start playing, and it's gently building into whatever it's going to be, and I'd worked out what it was going to be. But then the strings start playing the melody to My Lovely Horse, which, if you don't know, the music he did for Father Ted, one of the episodes they entered Eurovision, and they wrote this song called My Lovely Horse, which is terrible and they have a nightmare about, and ever since it's become this sort of burden on Neil's back, basically, because obviously he wrote it and actually sang it in the show. And you can't go to a Divine Comedy gig without some wag shouting out, My Lovely Horse. And occasionally he will just strum it on the guitar and sing a little bit of it. Sometimes he will tell you to cough. Depends what sort of mood he's in. One gig I went to, he actually said, refused to play it, but then played The Miracle Is Mine, which was the other Eurovision song entry he wrote for that show. But yeah, it was this full orchestral version of My Lovely Horse, and then he sang it, and everybody was up and singing along and swaying, and it was just amazing. And just this full band, full length version of My Lovely Horse, something I never thought I'd see. Yeah, fantastic. Then they left the stage and then came back on for the encores, and they did To the Rescue, which made a nice change, which is a slower number from the Foreverland album. And Tonight We Fly, they ended on, which I predicted would reappear. No National Express, which was interesting. And then left, and then I headed back here and fell asleep, basically. So that was yesterday. But yeah, another great night. Got a bit more sleep last night, so I'm a bit more awake today. Yesterday, for some reason, my body still woke me up at 5:15, which is fairly usual for when I'm at home, because the cat often starts making noise around that time. But today I slept at 6:15 anyway. So an hour or so more. Plans for today, forecast looks reasonable, so I think I'm going to do the zoo, and then we'll see from there how long I spend there. If I've got time, I'll go to Camden and do the record stall at the market, and there are some record shops around there as well, but I think they're all sort of genre specific ones, and not really genres that I'm that interested in, so I'll have another little research if I do go and decide. But if not, then I'll probably do that tomorrow and just do the zoo today if I'm there a long time, or too knackered to do the shops. But that's the plan for today. Hope you found all that interesting. Apologies for the length, but there you go. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.